this new working, they were making 20, 30, 50 ounces a day. And it was crazy. The big discovery in California in 48 and the big rush of the 49ers to find gold in California. Well, there were some people that came from the Midwest that were in so big a hurry that they got here like in early May or maybe late April, and there was still snow in the passes, and so they were stuck. I mean, they were going to go over into California, but when there's snow covering the trail, you don't want to haul your wagon train and your mules and oxen and all that kind of stuff. You're not going to get them through the snow. So they knew that they had to wait for a few weeks. And, weather warms and it'll all melt. So they were camped down at the site of present-day Dayton, which is just down a few miles where this canyon that we're in dumps out into the valley. And they were camped down there, and they thought, well, since we're stuck here for a few weeks, maybe we should go prospecting and see if we can find anything here. And they came up this canyon, and sure enough, they found some gold. And they gave it the highfalutin name of Gold Canyon. But there wasn't that much gold, and they expected that when they got to California, they would be getting pounds of gold, maybe pounds every day. And so finding, eighth of an ounce or a quarter ounce, a few dollars worth of gold, that just didn't excite them that much. But there got to be, after the biggest part of the rush of California was over, there were some people that were interested in it, and there were a bunch of vagabond guys that came and lived just down a little bit from where we were at the Donovan Mill. They were placer mining, and they would dig in the summer, and then when the rains came in the winter, they would sluice all their diggings, and they made good wages. This is a time when if you worked in a factory, you might get $1 or $1.50 a day, and those guys were making a couple, $2, $3 a day, so they're making better than wages, and they kept going, and they had a kind of a free and easy lifestyle. They'd come and go when they pleased, and it wasn't like working on a ranch where you needed to be doing something all the time. And so there was a collection of guys that were there for between 5 and 10 years. They had a little town, and there were a bunch of colorful characters that lived in the town. But it got to be like any placer, it eventually works out. I mean, there's an end to the deposit. And they got to where, they weren't making enough to pay wages. I mean, they weren't getting by. And so they started to fan out and try and find better deposits elsewhere. And some of the guys came and found a deposit down about a half a mile below Virginia City. Just down below from where you guys are camped. And it was pretty good, but it was much smaller than the other one that lasted 5 or 10 years. This one only lasted about 6 months, and it was worked out. So it was getting pretty desperate, and there was a pair of guys that they'd heard about another strike in California, only this time on the eastern side of the Sierras. And they thought, well, maybe we'll go upstream from that little find that was made here just a year ago, and if we can get enough gold for a grub stake, we'll get ourselves over to that other find in California. We'll just save up enough gold that we can have food to get ourselves and our horses over the pass and over into California. It's down there by the Vining. It's called Dogtown, is the name of the little district. That's where they were headed. And so they went up here above Virginia City, up that same canyon, and they weren't getting very much. There was a little spring there, and they were able to use a rocker to get the gold out. They were getting specs and a few flakes and not much. Really, sub-wages kind of amounts of gold. So they were trying to get enough money to go to this other new gold find. And they, went up the canyon from where the recent find had been made, and they weren't getting very much. They were getting a few little flakes, nothing, sub-wages. They weren't getting wages again. They were below what they should have, they really wanted, so they could save some money. And they had a spring there, and they were using a rocker to separate the gold out of the gravel. And they decided, well, it was actually about this time of year, early June, and the snows had all melted, and this little spring, it was the last of the snow melt water coming down. And so they dug it out to try and get a little more water that they could run their rocker boxes, and they ran into this weird blue-black gravel crud that didn't look like anything they'd ever processed before. But for the heck of it, they decided, let's run a little bit of this through our rocker and see how it goes. And it turned out that stuff was full. They were getting shocking. They were getting gold like they'd never seen before. They were getting, these guys, like I say, were making, when they were doing good, were making maybe a quarter of an ounce a day. And that was back when the other workings were still good. Well, in this new working, they were making 20, 30, 50 ounces a day. And it was crazy. And long about that same afternoon that they made the discovery, this crazy guy by the name of Henry Comstock comes along and says, hey, me and my partner, we claimed this spring a year ago. And rather than argue with him, they decided to give shares. And so each guy got a quarter. Henry and his partner got a quarter, and the two Irishmen made the original find got a quarter each. But there was loads of gold there. Why argue? There was like more than they could believe. Now the gold was really pale, had a lot of silver in it, but it's gold, and they were making big money. Got a three-way stop here with cars going all over. Anyway, they were making money and getting good gold. So, and a lot of the finds that had been made there played out pretty quick. So it was like, let's work it while we can. We'll get the help from the other guys, and we'll have more than plenty enough money to leave the area. Well, the thing is, it just kept getting better and better. It was rich. As they went down, it widened and opened up, and they started tracing it to the south. It went huge distance, hundreds of feet to the south. But as they worked down this surface gravel, eventually started getting harder and harder and less fractured and less like stuff that they could really run through a sluice box. I mean, it needed to be crushed. And along about that time, word had gotten out that these guys were making hundreds of dollars of gold a day. And, nobody challenged their claim, but people came to see, what's going on. And a guy took a sample of this blue-black crud that they were throwing out after they got the gold out of it, and took it to an assay lab in Grass Valley and had it assayed. And it turns out the blue-black crud was full of both gold and silver. It was super rich. And so they came back, and now they had all kinds of money of people wanting to come in and invest. And the early guys sold out for $10,000, $20,000, $15,000. One guy, one of the first two finders, the two Irishmen, held out and sold for 40 grand. But all of them, they got the money and they just went out and blew it.